So at AXA, I am the director of social media. I've been there a little over 4 years, which was a new position at the time. And the role is really to drive the enterprise social strategy for the organization across both our corporate channels on an organic and paid element, as well as content for our financial professionals, for our social selling initiative, our employee advocacy program, helping with getting our wholesaler initiative up and running. So really all the governance in place and everything, all the employee training, home office employee training, that is. So if it's got social, chances are I will be involved in some level. In terms of social media, I think I'm really excited by the increased element that social is taking in the larger digital ecosystem. And for the first time in a long time, companies really have an opportunity to engage and connect with consumers in a real-time manner, which they didn't have before. People are out there, they're sharing, they want to be engaged, they want to be involved, and they want to connect with you on a more personal basis. And social is really presenting that, not only on a corporate level, but even on a relationship building level for the advisors, the financial professionals. I think it's really impactful how they can connect in this level. It's kind of like the non-text message type of element, if you will. So I think in terms of some struggles, there's a few common ones that I hear about. One is always speed to market. So we know that we're in a highly regulated industry, no matter what level of financial services you are. And dealing with organizations like compliance and all the other different elements, it takes time to get things live. And some people find that this could be a struggle. Some people find that compliance specifically could be a roadblock. You know, as much as a struggle that this may be that people have found, we've actually found that if you follow a certain mindset and methodology, it can actually help. Something we spoke about actually in the conference, it's this idea of being ready, right? Of being respectful of the group you're dealing with, of compliance, of educating them on the elements, realizing they don't know everything you do, anticipating their questions ahead of time. So if they're always going to ask you about archiving and surveillance, know that coming into the conversation. Describing what you're going to do in detail so they have it for books and records, and realizing that it's on us as the marketer to drive initiatives forward and not relying that compliance or others are going to do it for us. That we need their help and we have to own it and not just rely on others to do it for us. That's one. I think the second challenge or struggle that people struggle with, specifically in social media, is the notion of how do you integrate social across a full organization. So right now in many organizations, you might see different elements that are siloed. You might see one program that's here and one program that's there. And how do you really pull it all together to make it one unified structure, both from a brand consistency perspective, but also just so from a measurement perspective, you can see all of it happen. So when I think about starting an employee advocacy program, I always think of it as there's 4 E's to success. Makes it kind of easy to remember. And the first one is really about the employees. So it's how do you pick the right employees for your pilot program and for your program in general. So if you know that there's a certain percentage of your programs that are active on social media, that are already pro your brand and advocates, maybe they're the right ones to meet your goals. The next is all about engagement. So because you're asking employees to go out of their way, take their own time, use their network to support the brand, in addition to their own brand, you're asking them to go against their grain. And so you want to make it a fun and engaging program from them, whether that's through recognition, whether that's through sharing the data back with them, or just making sure the content that you give them is interesting and not always just more brand and more brand, more brand. The next is about expectations. So it's always important when you're dealing with these types of programs to ensure that you set the right expectations with management. They take time to be successful. You're not going to turn on a program like this and have it work in a week. It could take months to get people to adopt and to change their mindset, especially in many financial service companies where we're used to being regulated in the sense of saying you cannot do this. And the last, which crosses all 3, is on education, is making sure you have a robust education platform to give people information around not only social media training, but content training and the platform training that you're using as well. So I think when you think about what you can get out of these types of programs, the one is an increase in brand awareness. So we know from data such as LinkedIn's research that if an employee shares a piece of content, the same piece of content that a brand shares, it will get 2 times the level of engagement. That's huge, right? We know organic reach on some channels like Facebook are difficult when it comes to a brand. And because of this, if you want to get your message out, you want it to become more humanizing, then having it go from an individual employee gives that right feel and gets that reach that you're looking for. I think that's one important element. The other one, which I've been challenged on sometimes in the past, but I think it's important to consider, is having a program like this will help you create a more digitally aware employee base. So if you think about from a retention perspective in terms of employees attracting the next type of talent to your organization, people want to know that you're innovative, that you're up with the times, and so on. If your employee base has no idea what social media is and they have no comfort in using it, it doesn't stand well from a retention, from a recruiting perspective. But even just from a customer perspective, we know that as younger customers become the common and they move into the core segments, they are the digital natives. And they're going to expect different digital platforms and different digital initiatives. And that is true by social as well. And if as an organization your employees are not ready to adopt that, it's going to be harder to meet the ever-evolving consumer needs. So we all know compliance is very important in general. It's always important to get them on your side. And I'm thankful that we have a very strong relationship with our compliance team. But I think one of the greatest challenge from a compliance perspective is what type of employees are going to be participating in these types of programs, and by extension, what type of content are you putting in? So when we launched our program, we met with compliance, and that was one of the first questions. You know, how does this differ from our social selling initiative, which only has our financial professionals in it, and they're authorized to sell? How does this work now? Who are you putting in? Is there a difference when you're talking about a home office employee between a registered and a non-registered employee? And you have to work through those discussions to figure out, well, who are we comfortable with from a regulatory perspective to put in to make sure it's the right type of person, because that will dictate then what type of levels of supervision and retention and archiving and so on are required as part of that. By extension, it's then the content. So when we think about the content, when you think about people who are trying to sell, you want to give them very financial content and some fun stuff. But their clients and prospects care about that these financial professionals know what they're talking about when it relates to financial topics. When you think about an employee, I'm not going to share anything about life insurance. I'm going to share about the culture of the company, why we're a trustworthy brand, why it's fun to work here. It's a very different mindset. And that content then also determines, well, what needs a stronger eye from compliance and what not. And I think once you get to the bottom of those two elements, compliance is a lot more comfortable with getting this initiative off the ground and helping really drive it forward. Our compliance officer actually became a member of our program, so that was a really great outcome as well.